This Bobbi Althoff is everywhere, out of nowhere. So like Drake comes out with this video promoting the album, and it's just like a 1-minute clip, and it's this like weird dry humor podcast where he's talking to this 25-year-old girl who's in his bed with him, and they've got mics set up, and they're doing this what almost felt like a parody of a podcast. It was like a low energy, dumb podcast that she was awkward, asking kind of insulting questions. I like when Drake played Rack City Bitch for her, you know, all kinds. And I'm going like, oh, I guess I thought it was like one of those like fake, like, you know how on Instagram now, any product that wants to advertise will do like the fake podcast, but it's actually just a commercial. Like this podcast doesn't exist. They're like, bro, you know about mouth tape? And like one is the bro. And he's like, bro, I used to have so much trouble sleeping, but I will tell you, I've been sleeping like a baby for 30 days. And then the other guy is like the smart guy. Well, you know, doctors have said that a lot of breathing needs to occur through the nose. And you're like, this is straight out of Central Casting. This is not a real, dude, I've been sleeping better since I got this pillow. I didn't know we were going to be doing pillow talk today, dude. But while we're talking about it, and people are watching going like, I don't know, man. I saw this podcast because so much of our media consumption is just done in clips. At their best, clips are there to promote something. I mean, let's be honest. For the most part, you watch the clip, you take from the clip what you will, and you'll just keep scrolling. So I'm sure the same way that like 10 years ago, say, maybe less than that, 8 years ago, people started saying, I read this article, but really they just read a tweet about the article. Now people go, oh, I watched this podcast. And it's like, no, you saw a reel or a TikTok. You didn't watch an hour of a podcast. You watched 30 seconds of this like boom, 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 boom. So I see this and I'm like, I'm assuming that this is like a fake podcast, especially since the name of it was The Really Good Podcast. and I go, but like, why? But it was kind of funny. And so I was like, where'd she come from? And then I realized this is a real, it's kind of suspicious, right? There are a lot of conspiracy theories out about her because
I was looking into it too.
Yeah, it's invested. Yeah. You started cyber sleuthing, right?
I did. She really did come out of nowhere.
Totally out of nowhere. And like, this is episode 4 of her podcast. And and like, it's a full show and it has like 3 million views. It's millions of views. But it's one thing, like if you're on Vanderpump Rules or something like that, and you launch a podcast, and within 3 episodes you have giant celebrities and you're getting millions of views. It's like, well, yeah, but that's Vanderpump traffic. You know what I mean? Like that's coming from someplace else. I'd never seen this person before in my life. And all of a sudden she's sitting there like insulting Lil Yachty and getting 2 million views, and Lil Yachty's like having the time of his life, like he's just talking to a peer. And I'm like, Yachty, like I've known about you for a while. I've seen your sneaker collection. I've been in your closet. Like you've done all kinds of wacky stuff. I know, but who are you talking?
You build up to Drake. You build up to Drake. Drake is not your 4th podcast yet as an unknown, and then as an unknown.
And it was so like the controversy around this, because like the people who actually interview hip hop artists were like, the fuck is this? Drake's not doing any interviews. He didn't interview anyone from like hip hop media or music media. He just did this Bobbi Althoff thing and like let her put the clips out, and he put the clips out, and that was it as far as interviews go. So
he was reposting and shit.
He posted. I saw it on his account before I saw it anywhere. That's why I thought it was a commercial. I didn't even think it was a real thing. And I go like, okay, and I started to do whatever research I could do, but there's a like strikingly small amount on this person. Like
it's not that much. I looked through.
Right?
I looked through her. I don't think she has a wiki yet.
No, and like the Instagram cuts off like way recently. Like you get done scrolling. You don't get to see like, oh, this is where she was trying but hadn't quite popped off yet. It's like, nope, she just appeared here in this form. The only thing that she was big on TikTok. The only thing I've heard is she was big on TikTok before this. And you're like, I guess, right? She, like, whatever. Like, oh shit, 5 million.
She wasn't that big because even at some point, being big on TikTok does translate into
something.
Yeah.
Some kind of visibility.
Before you get to Drake.
Right. Well, that's why people are, and like, I like it. Like, obviously, the reason that I'm looking it up and stuff is because I like what she's doing. I think it's funny because there is this genre now. As somebody that's watched the industry, you know, I keep my eyes on the industry. And as somebody that's watched it, there really is this genre. And it's guys and girls of like low energy, we're not doing anything podcasts. And some of them get like massive. And you're going like, what even is this? Like, who is this appealing to? And they're like, oh, whatever. Yeah, man. This week we're talking to Tony Hawk. So you like skateboard, right? And you're like, why is Tony Hawk wasting his time? Or like, and it's like, it's not, it's guys, it's girls, it's whoever. It's just, and then you look at the views, and there's a ton of views, and you have to imagine people are going, look, I don't know if you'll have a great time, but a lot of people will see it. What do you want to do here? And it's like, yeah, of course, you do the podcast that a lot of people are going to see. So I like that. I mean, I think it's a parody of that, unless it's just that. I don't know. I take it as a parody, but maybe I'm putting too much, I'm giving her too much credit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just typed in who is, and the first thing Google showed is Bobbi Althoff. Although I may have already Googled that too, but
I think everybody's asking.
She did post, because I did start following her on Instagram, and then yeah. So she did make a post commenting on the fact that people think that she's an industry plant.
Well, there's only two theories that people have posted that I'm kind of like, okay, I'm willing to look into this. Number one is industry plant. Whereas
which I love the term. What does that mean, actually?
An industry plant is when somebody gets really successful and you didn't know them before they were successful, and then you go, oh, whatever, the industry did that. And you go, how? And then they go, they're an industry plant. You go, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
just choose someone.
Because they said, like when Billie Eilish got really big, like when Bad Guy blew up like crazy, and then Billie Eilish was everywhere, people were like, oh, industry plant. Right? Like Old Town Road, when Old Town Road blew up and Lil Nas X was just everywhere all of a sudden, like there was no come up, people accused Lil Nas X of being an industry plant. It's when the industry comes together and decides, we're going to make you famous. Which also, I mean, takes
like The Undertaker.
I'm going to make you famous. But The Undertaker, I mean, I think that was more of like a reference to an obituary. I don't think that's exactly the same. But then there are some that are going a step further that believe that the only thing, because they're trying to be like, well, what's a reasonable explanation for this sudden blast of fame? Because she's got like Cobra Tate levels of just being everywhere. Like, you remember like 2 years ago when it was just like you couldn't go anywhere,
just out of nowhere.
You never heard of this guy.
Andrew Tate was an industry plant too.
And then maybe they realized that they couldn't control him, so they were like, nope, not ours.
Pop me out of the Matrix.
Right. She won't pop out of the Matrix.
Yeah.
The other thing is that there are some that I've read, and you know, when people say I've read this, that means that they probably saw a TikTok, which is how I did my research. That said that their theory is that she is a puppet of the Illuminati, that it was created to control the youth. So, could be, right? Do you know it's not?
Honestly, I don't know that it's not, and we should be asking these kind of questions.
Yeah, I mean, we should be. It's only responsible, right?
It's concerning.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there is another theory, which is because like, I think her first podcast was like because I started going, I go backwards and go like, where did it start, right? And her first podcast is with Rick Glassman. And that's very, Rick Glassman, the comic, he does Take Off Your Shoes podcast. And like Rick Glassman is not an industry plant because he's like successful now, but you can kind of track it. Like it took him several episodes before he started to really gather an audience, I think.
Right.
He's been around for a while anyway.
So I mean, like the first clip that I saw of her was Funny Marco, which is like
I saw the Funny Marco clip too, and I go, okay, I could see jumping from Rick Glassman to Funny Marco. I go, okay, I could see that. I mean, look, there is a possibility here that Drake is a closet nerd that looks at stuff on the internet all the time and just hit her up to do a podcast, and that made her very famous because he's Drake. I know that's
like he made her, like he made a star. He was like, yeah, I'll do this.
Like, I know that seems like too simple to be true, but sometimes, because like I remember when that when the doc came out about the Trashers, the hockey team, you know, from Connecticut. Remember AJ Galante came by the studio. He said that like when the doc first came out, the Danbury Trashers, when that Netflix doc first came out, he said he just randomly got a DM from Drake, like the day the doc came out. He watched the doc right away. He found AJ Galante on Twitter, on Instagram. Drake himself DM'd him. He said, I need a jersey. I need to get a jersey. AJ was like, oh, I don't really have any jerseys. Drake was like, what's your number? And AJ was like, I don't know who this actually is. Like, it's probably one of,
yeah,
right?
It's like, ha, Drake.
Yeah, it's probably one of Drake's handlers or something. But he goes, whatever. I'll give him my number. He said 5 minutes later, Drake FaceTimed him. Like, dude, I need to get one of these with his Toronto accent and everything. Drake was on the other end of the FaceTime with him. And AJ said that at that point, he said, I got to get this guy a jersey. So AJ went to his home, like his office that he works out of. And the only jersey that existed at that point, because the Danbury Trashers were nothing, was his own personal jersey that he had framed. So he took the frame off the wall, smashed the glass, took it out, and Drake sent a driver from Buffalo to Danbury, Connecticut to just pick up the jersey from AJ Galante. AJ gave him the jersey fresh out of the frame with scraps of glass still in it. They drove the jersey back to Drake, and within 24 hours of the conversation, Drake had a picture of himself on Instagram wearing a Danbury Trashers jersey. So Drake's a big, weird, like, nerd.
That's amazing.
Right. So there is this possibility that Drake was just watching this video of this girl with Rick Glassman or Funny Marco and goes like, oh my God, like, I don't really need to promote my album like that. Like, I mean, what am I going to go on a press tour? I'm Drake, for God's sake. I'm not going to do that. I just need to put out something.
Right.
What if I just had this girl come to my house and like record a podcast with me? She's funny.
In bed.
Yeah, and then she could get in my bed with me. Does that seem like far-fetched? Like, I feel like I've cracked the code on this one.
It's a possibility. And I kind of like the idea that is something that Drake would do, because it gives me hope that maybe one of these days we can get Drake's attention.
That's another thing. I'm like, to any like big celebrities out there, like, oh, how random would it be to do Sam Roberts' show? Like, oh my God, that'd be so silly. You should come over and do it. Like, if Lil Yachty, it doesn't have to be Drake. I would happily talk to Lil Yachty. Lil Uzi Vert, he loves Shinsuke Nakamura. I love Shinsuke Nakamura. If Lil Uzi Vert wanted to come over and like, oh, this is so like weird. I mean, like, I'm like a 40-year-old bald man. It's not exactly the same. But
if Bad Bunny only did one interview for a press run and it was talking wrestling on Notsam Wrestling,
I go, look, Bunny, Benito, here's what we'll do. This is going to be so like wacky and random. It'll get so much buzz. You come over to my house. You do the interview with me. I'll bring Hot Dog over as the translator. It'd be great. He'll be speaking broken Spanish. Nobody.
It's gonna be a lot of miscommunication.
It'd be a total mess. He'd think I was insulting him. You'd screw the whole thing up. Yeah, I feel like that's the move to any celebrities that want to be the next Drake and get all the people talking. Let's do something crazy. Let's do some viral marketing.
What I think, that's a possibility, and I would love for that to be the possibility. I think maybe maybe not an industry plant but I think maybe her father, or so she's well connected with someone. Maybe she's neighbors with maybe her dad's neighbors with Drake or something like that. And then one of them was like, hey, well, my daughter has a podcast, or maybe like one of, like a PR guy, something like that, just like a random hookup.
You find out her dad was the guy that played the principal on Degrassi, and you're like, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Like, you soon you'll find out she's like the daughter of the CEO of like fucking Morgan Chase or whatever.
Morgan
Sachs
Chase,
or
yeah.
whatever.
You're obviously a guy who loves banks. Morgan Chase. Is that where you invest in?
No, yeah. Whatever it is. That's what I think
they
it
say.
is.
They say Billie Eilish was propped up by her brother Phineas, who was already like kind of in the industry and producing behind the scenes. I mean, who knows? People also have to explain it, right? You've got to explain it away in some kind of negative, nefarious thing. You can't just be like, somebody got a ton of good luck and it wasn't you. Like that's that's usually what the explanation is. Somebody had a tremendous amount of good fortune at a very young age and it's not you. Well, no, I can justify that. I mean, they're being propped up. Their dad is this person. The industry thinks that person. What if they just got lucky and it didn't happen to you? Possible.
Entirely possible.
Entirely, yeah. I mean, I'll listen to it. It doesn't sound realistic, but I suppose it's possible.
It's possible,
I mean,
sure.
Bit far-fetched, but yeah. So,
and also Jake's audience is not, I don't think they get the podcast. Like the awkwardness and insulting nature of it. Like the comments that I read are just like, this is the thing that he went on. Like,
you think they don't like her? They don't like her?
Yeah, like she doesn't even know his music.
Because she's saying like, no, I don't know. No,
yeah.
I don't know. It's also like it's a little like the sort of awkwardness and low energy does have that sort of comes off of ASMR culture, I believe, as well.
It is soothing listening to her talk.
See,
I was going to say that.
I don't know.
And she's also cute as a button.
I mean, adorable.
Adorbs.
You really think I'm cute?
Yeah,
and they have the mics calibrated just right, so they have all that little bass on the end of it. Is that what you're really saying?
Drake with his wine.
I've never heard any of your songs. I don't know. You haven't? You haven't heard my songs? No, I haven't heard any of them. See, we can do it.
It's very calm.
Viral marketing.